Hi everyone, have a look at what I have here. I have the Canon EOS R5, my new camera, Canon EOS R, well, my older camera, and this adapter and this special bag with the Canon label here, very important. And I have a pancake 40mm, but I'm gonna test it with other lenses as well. I'm gonna fight this myth that EF lenses work improperly on the RF bodies. Some people think that this adapter makes the picture worse. It eats the FPS, well, your aperture because never or some other bad things. Well, it's a total mess, but in this video I'm gonna prove you that you can use any EF class without any significant constraints. In order to make my test complete, I have well, really nice lenses for these bodies. So this is a native RF 35mm 1.8. This is a Sigma Art version 1.4, and this is the EF, the older 35mm f2. All these lenses are compatible with these bodies, but we'll check whether are there any constraints and how they work, well, if you put them via this adapter. Let's have a look at the Canon EOS R5, the EF lens, 35mm f2. So let's check the movie record quality. And we have all those modes available. What is, well, I cannot shoot RAW because I have a slow SD card. I don't have the appropriate card. But as for the modes, everything is available. High frame rates is also available. Then lens aberration correction. See, the first item and the third and the fourth are available, but the distortion correction, it says the correction is not available. Just one thing that doesn't work with the EF lens. Now we have the Sigma Art lens. I disable the high frame rate, which is available again. We have the same movie modes. We can shoot up to 8K on the SD card. And then what else? We can crop if we want. And as for the aberration corrections, same situation. Everything is available except for the distortion correction. And one more thing, if we go to the image stabilization mode, we have the IBIS. We can turn it on or off separately, IBIS and digital stabilization. This is important because I will show you what changes when you put EF lens that has an in-body optical stabilization. Now I have this EF mount lens and image stabilization only digital. So sensor stabilization, the IBIS, well, it's not available in the menu. I suppose it will work with this camera, but you don't have that option in the menu. You can just switch it here on the camera. Same situation goes with this lens. And as for the movie record quality, everything the same. So you have no limitation whether you put either of these lenses. Everything will work just fine. And lens aberration correction, we have all the four types on. So the distortion correction is available only for RF lenses. Well, this is what we see in this test. But I must warn you that you can put this on in your Lightroom or other software. But if you shoot video, then this is more important because for video this is much more complicated. Although those lenses, they don't have significant distortion. Let's check on the Canon EOS R. So I have the Canon 35mm RF mount on the Canon EOS R. Let's check the aberration correction. This body has only 3 of them, so it's illumination, peripheral illumination correction, distortion correction, and chromatic aberration correction. The R5 has 4 of those corrections. And let's go to the first menu. We can enable or disable the digital stabilization. This body doesn't have IBIS. As for the movie record quality, you see that all those modes are available from 4K up to HD and Full HD 60 frames per second. Let's change the lens. Now I have the Sigma Art lens. We go to the movie modes. All the modes are available, so nothing has changed, you see. High frame rate is available. This rate is limited if you put here EFS lens. So crop lenses limit this function, but if you shoot with a full frame lens, it doesn't matter whether it's EF mount or RF mount. And we have that digital stabilization, which is sometimes pretty handy with this body. As for the lens aberration corrections, we have everything except the distortion correction. It works like this, you see, which items are available and which items are not. Now I've put the Canon 35mm EF lens, and as for the lens aberration corrections, same situations as with the Sigma. We don't have the distortion correction, but we have the first one and the third one. And the distortion correction was also wasn't available on the R5 either. And as for the movie record quality, you see that all the modes are available, so nothing has changed. High frame rate also available. And the digital stabilization also we can enable it. And now let's go to tests. Let's have a look at the image sharpness. Here we have the Canon EOS R5, the RF 35mm f1.8. Then we have the Sigma Art 35mm f1.4, and then the EF 35mm f2. What is very interesting to me is how the RF and the EF lenses compare. So you see, on the left we have the RF lens, and on the right we have the EF lens. And as for the sharpness, well, to my opinion, they look pretty close. I wouldn't say that some of them is a winner here. So lenses go very, very close. On the open aperture, well, here it's f2 and here it's 1.8. Both lenses demonstrate us great sharpness. Maybe the EF is just a tiny bit sharper. Nevertheless, both lenses resolve those 45 megapixels on the Canon EOS R5. Let's have a look at the Sigma Art f1.4. So, well, again, it looks pretty close, and let's go to the corner. If we look at the corner, then I see advantage on the RF 35mm f1.8. Just a tiny bit. I wouldn't say that this changes something, but the Sigma Art is just a tiny bit softer in the edges on open aperture, because if you if you stop down the Sigma Art to same f2, the result will be totally the same. But here in my test we can see that the RF lens is a tiny bit sharper, although both lenses perform very, very well. You see that there is just a tiny jump in bokeh, so I wouldn't say that 1.4 is that much greater than 1.8. So what are my conclusions? Well, I personally don't own any RF lenses. I have two bodies now. It's Canon EOS R and the R5, and I have about 9 EF mount lenses which I use with this adapter, and I feel no problems with it because the images are sharp. Some people have and I had also such fears that this body won't be that old optics is not enough for 45 megapixels, that you need some special top of the line RF lenses in order to get sharp images on this kind of sensor. But what my tests show, that if you have a decent EF glass, for example this RF 35 1.8 or the well-known for its sharpness Sigma Art 1.4, for example, so all of those lenses are pretty sharp. So, in my opinion, it's a matter of your personal choice. The thing is not in the image quality. It's just because you want something more than something, the best of the best. But as for the sharpness and all other qualities, if you choose a decent glass, not all EF glasses, not all EF lenses are sharp. Not all of them are good. But if you choose, if you know what you buy, then you won't have any problems with Canon EOS R and as well as Canon EOS R5. And as far as the image stabilization goes, of course, this body has the IBIS. And this IBIS is the most advanced on the market because with non-stabilized lens you can shoot, lenses that are under 50 millimeters, you can shoot up to 1 second exposure, 1 second shutter speed. This is amazing. This is something pretty new because, EF lens optical stabilization in, for example, this 35 millimeters allows me to shoot, maximum 1/20th of a second. 1/5, no, the images will be blurred. And I noticed one problem, that if you shoot stills with this lens, it seems to me that the IBIS doesn't work on the ER5. So this is a downside. In case you need this, the only thing that I've noticed, but the thing is not because of this lens's EF mount. The problem is that it has optical stabilization. I don't know why, but if your EF lens has optical stabilization, as for RF lenses, I have to test this, but EF lenses with optical stabilization, they cause the in-body stabilization to turn off. This is a downside, because I've noticed that it's better to shoot with a non-stabilized lens with the R5s than with the stabilized, because in-body stabilization is way more efficient than the optical stabilization here. Of course, if you need it, because for my work, well, I either use a tripod. If I have to shoot, for example, interior work, it's always with a tripod. I don't need this IBIS in body. Or I shoot with lenses that have large aperture when I shoot people, because in either way, well, I won't shoot people at 1 second shutter speed. I need the shutter speed to be enough fast so that the movements are sharp. People don't get blurry. Well, it depends, but you have to know that in optical stabilization has some problems for the IBIS. But as for the sharpness goes, as I have said, it's all okay, and EF lenses perform quite well, even on 45 megapixels here. I am pretty surprised by this fact, but you can happily use any EF, almost any EF lenses with the R5 and save your money on buying very expensive new RF lenses. So this is my review, and see you soon in next videos.